Alright, quick update on ApeCoin. So we're going to be looking at both the USD valuation and the Bitcoin valuation, just like I've been doing in a lot of my altcoin videos today. So let's jump right into the chart, starting off with the daily. We've actually got selling volume coming in. We are down, what are we down today? If I can find ApeCoin, we are down approximately 6%, which is not surprising considering we pumped into the other side meta news. The daily EMA ribbons are still bearish. I would not be, completely surprised if we could even move up to, $11 to $12 before having that rejection to the downside. So don't get too euphoric too soon. The trend is your friend. If we look at the momentum indicators, we're going to be looking at the squeeze bomb. You can see we're still massively heading to the downside. Weekly time frame, we've got exponential selling volume coming in. Volume predicts price. While you are dropping like this and volume's exponentially increasing, it's typically a sign that we're not near a bottom. If the volume was reversing and we had bullish candles coming in, or on the flip side, if this was bearish candles and you saw something like this where the momentum is channeling to the downside and we're losing momentum, it'd be a completely different story. I'd be saying, we might be about to have a reversal, but we're breaking down, volume is increasing. That is indicative that we have lower to go. We previously talked about this on the 4-hourly time frame, how we could be setting up something like an inverse head and shoulders. Now, I'd probably say this is the best way to draw it. You can see shoulder, head, and this could potentially be the shoulder. We would need to break above $9.30 to solidify a bullish breakout. Even then, you would have strong resistance coming in at your $9.75, which would be the long-term moving average on your 4-hourly EMA ribbon. Historically, we have taken this out before, so you can see we broke down, we came up, we poked our head above it. We did this almost twice before we emmed out and came back down. So do not be surprised, do not get extremely euphoric if we do something like this. And do not be surprised if we come up to, 11 or 12 before coming down, because like I said, looking at this on the daily time frame, this would just put us right back in these EMA ribbons. So we do need to be very, very cautious on trading these altcoins right now. And I'm really going to go into why I don't think altcoins are the best play at this moment in time, but I'll talk about that towards the end. Looking at the volume, we're seeing a tiny bit of a bounce come in the past 4 hours, but really, this is really a sea of red that I'm noticing. And you've got a little bit of a pump on the other side news, but predominantly this is really all selling volume. So I would not be foaming into this right now. Like I said, 4-hourly time frame, we're finding a little bit of resistance coming into the 4-hourly EMAs. If we don't make it back up to $9.71 the next time we come up and turn down, this could definitely be something like an M pattern and a failed inverse head and shoulders, indicative that we are probably going to move back down to the downside. Looking at the 4-hourly squeeze one, we're already running out of bearish momentum, which is a telltale sign. We're probably about to move down. Like I said, volume as well is very indicative that we would also be breaking down. On the 4-hourly time frame, if we zoom out, you can really see we've got a plethora of lows depending on where you want to consider the lows. You can, because I think on the daily, your candle body closes, that you had a lot around here. But if we specifically talk about the 4-hourly, you can see, all of these lows from here to here, we are now below. So this is obviously going to be another big area of resistance if we do try and poke our head above it. And also this nicely lines up, 1050 and all the way down to 950. This kind of lines up with some of the longer term moving averages that you've got, and also mid-term moving averages right in the middle of these EMA ribbons is also where the inverse head and shoulder is. So there's a lot of resistance for ApeCoin at this moment in time. If we come over to, actually I'm not going to focus on the 1 hour because I'm more interested in the higher time frames, because clearly the trend is your friend until the end. We're not going to go over to the 1 minute time frame and be like, oh my god, we've broken bullish, it's time to FOMO in. I think it's much better we put things in a macro perspective as much as we can. So that's pretty much all I've got for ApeCoin against the US dollar. Now, it's kind of shaky because we really don't have price targets apart from the previous low down here, and even then you've taken out the low, so we'd be having a much nastier move to the downside if we did fail the next move, in my opinion. You can see we bounced up, held the 0.5, so we really need to start pushing up at this moment in time. If we don't hold these levels, then we could absolutely get capitulated. You're not near any of your moving averages, you're not near any of your macro fibs, so I do think a breakdown is more likely than the move up. I could be wrong. As I always say, I do not have a crystal ball. I'm just running on probabilities, and from a probability perspective, I think the breakdown is more likely. I won't be DCAing at these levels because, you know, I've been saying this in my videos, but this descending triangle that Bitcoin is currently in, or currently breaking down from, looks exactly like what we saw before the capitulation of 2018. So I'm being very, very cautious. I'm doing my due diligence. I'm sitting on the sidelines and only accumulating Bitcoin while Bitcoin's below 34,000. I'll be letting you know when I do plan on getting back in APE, because I definitely do. But at this moment, you know, I'm not going to be touching it. So if you are looking for some Moonboy Hopium, then you would really need to flip $12.62. Until we flip, then we're really not bullish. Lower time frames though, a strong move above $10 could definitely be indicative that you could be short-term bullish. But then once again, you've got the lows down here at 10.57. So I'd really say until you do something like this and then, you know, break above these lows, you would really not be out of the water. So be very, very cautious if you are, you know, FOMOing in, buying the dip, as to say. I do think ApeCoin and a lot of the altcoins can go lower. Now, let's check out the ApeCoin BTC pair. Now, almost all of the altcoin pairs against Bitcoin have been really capitulating when I've been looking at them. For example, AXI against Bitcoin, massively capitulating. KDA against Bitcoin, massively capitulating. Engine, Dogecoin, Crypto.com, Solana, they're all massively capitulating. And this, we're seeing like a slight deviation from the norm when we look at ApeCoin. And bear in mind, ApeCoin has only been out for a short period of time, and what we're seeing right now with the other side being released really kind of does make the data a little bit trippy to look at, because you know, we had this big run up, we had the blow off top that came on some exchanges, and you know, it's kind of sticky because we haven't been trading for a prolonged period of time, and we've been seeing news events carrying, you know, what goes on in the charts. But if you look here, you can see, you know, we're really in some big accumulation range. Not too much has changed on ApeCoin since it's been going out on Bitcoin. We had a big run up. That was very nice. It did outperform Bitcoin for a while. The Cowboy family made sure to take advantage of ApeCoin. We took profits. And, you know, I did DCA at 13, but I'm now looking for much lower price targets to DCA back into ApeCoin, because the money that I DCA'd was basically money from taking profit at 23.70. So now I'm running on the bank's money. I've got a free trade. But I want to make sure if I'm getting back into ApeCoin that I'm going to be, you know, I'm going to be getting the best price possible. It does seem like this inverse head and shoulders failed, but you can still kind of draw it out if you want to. I just think it would be slightly ugly, especially as you've got this wick down here. So technically it would kind of be like a double structure. You could also argue this could be like a W. I'd much prefer to call this a W now that we've kind of failed, or at least in my opinion, it is kind of like an ugly failed inverse head and shoulders. But you could see if we do break out of a 3088 pair on the BTC Ape, you know, pair, that we could be breaking bullish. I don't necessarily think any altcoin is going to be outperforming Bitcoin anytime soon. You can also see we are topping out on the money flow indicator. This is probably indicative that we are about to roll down. The RSI is kind of chilling around the heart line, especially if we get rejected here, then we could massively capitulate. So I'm being very cautious with all my altcoins right now. Like I said, there's not a plethora of data to see on this ApeCoin pair. I mean, we've already broken below the lows, so this would be done anyway. So we really need to look at different Fibonacci's. I imagine in the short term, you know, you've probably held your 618, you've held your 0.5 actually, so it looks good against Bitcoin at this moment in time. But I do not think this is going to be a reoccurring theme. I think after the hype of the other side goes away in the next couple of days, I think if the dollar opens on Monday, the dollar starts rallying, the stock market starts crashing, Bitcoin starts crashing, I think we are going to capitulate. I think we're going to have one last flush out. That will be the bottom, done and dusted. And then I think at which point we could be having a boring accumulation phase for the next month or two. And what that would mean for the price of ApeCoin would probably mean that it's going to get slaughtered against Bitcoin. So it's a shame we don't have a plethora of data to run off. We're really sitting in this accumulation range. But if we do break below 22885, which is another 17% drop, we could massively capitulate, much lower than a 38% drop against the price of Bitcoin. So I'm being very cautious. I'm not entering any altcoin trades at this moment in time. I think altcoins are going to get slaughtered against the USD pair, but more importantly, the reason why I'm in Bitcoin is because I think they're going to get slaughtered against their Bitcoin pairs. And I want to be the person to be buying the dip when everyone else has run out of money from buying the dip, because people have been saying for all of these altcoins, buy the dip, buy the dip, buy the dip, buy the dip, buy the dip. Once they run out of money is when the markets are going to be very mundane, flat and boring, and this is the best time because, you know, we've been sitting on the sidelines being very patient, and if these price targets do come into fruition, we're going to be laughing and we're going to be buying altcoins for dirt cheap. So that's what I'm looking out for. Hope you found some value in this video looking at ApeCoin from a different perspective. Very boring, flat, mundane chart with not a lot of information going on it. We were previously running off multiple Fibonacci's, but unfortunately, as you can imagine, we've capitulated below the lows and the price targets to the downside are obscene. So we're not going to be running off those fibs anymore. We're really going to be focusing on your moving averages, your resistances that we've got coming in with these lows, trading patterns, and most importantly, I think it's really important that we focus on the 4-hourly EMAs. They've been a perfect indicator of whether we're bullish or bearish. So until we flip them, I have no reason to believe that we're going to be going to higher price targets. That is all I've got. I wish you the best of luck if you plan on trading Ape anyway. As always, cowboy out, not financial advice, and most importantly, peace.